This is my video series all about yarn, crochet, a little bit of knitting, maybe a little bit of home life and stuff like that, but mainly about yarn. So if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back to see what I'm up to. And if you're a new viewer, then welcome. When I first started this video series, I wasn't sure if I would be doing, I wasn't sure if it would carry on. I didn't know if I would enjoy it, or if people would enjoy it, other people would like it, and it turns out that obviously I'm really enjoying making it, and I'm really enjoying the social aspect of it. So hence me carrying on, and I think this is episode 7 now, which is mad really. And because of my slight apprehension, I suppose, of uploading that first episode, I never really did a proper introduction, because I'm not a big fan of giving too much personal information out on the internet, especially when I wasn't entirely sure where this is going. But because I'm pretty sure now that I'm going to be carrying on with this for as long as possible, I thought I'd give a very quick introduction. Basically, I grew up in the UK. My mum always had a craft shop for as long as I could remember, basically. So I was very much, well, very lucky to be brought up around all things crafty. My mum was never really a knitter or even a crocheter. She was always mostly into cross stitch. So I felt that I always say to people, I can never remember learning how to cross stitch. For me, it was just something that came so naturally. So I'm really lucky for that. But it's been in the last few years that my mum and I have both sort of picked up the crochet bug. So yes, about 10 or 11 years ago, I moved to Cyprus. I followed my mum and dad over here. They moved over here a year before I did, and I thought I wanted to stay in the UK. I knew I wanted to do a bit of travelling, but I didn't think I wanted to go to Cyprus straight away. But then after a year, and I was a bit tired of the mentality where everyone was in a rush and trying to make as much money as possible. I wanted to get away from that. I wanted to travel a bit, so I moved to Cyprus, originally intending for it to just be a stop-off point, and I've just stayed here ever since. I met my husband over here. He is from Wales. We've been married, how long have we been? I'm terrible with dates. I'm really, really bad with dates. I think 5 years now. And we now have a little boy who will be 3 at the end of January. It's currently October now. And we have a dog, Maddie, who you might hear occasionally make the odd growl or barking noise. And we live in our apartment in Paya in Cyprus. And as far as crochet and yarn is concerned, when I was learning crochet about 5 or 6 years ago, I never thought, I remember at the time thinking, I don't know why I'm bothering, because I'll never be able to figure this out. And it just sort of became more of a challenge, and with time I wanted to try different crochet projects, and so I've done a little bit of everything with crochet, but I really found my passion when it came to doing designs. So that's the direction I'm heading in now, doing as many designs as I can. And I've got to tell you, since I've made this decision to focus on my designs, the amount of ideas are just coming so fast, I can't keep up with them almost. So I've got a lot of projects on the go, so why not show you those right now? Better put my cup of tea down. With it being autumn now, it's getting that little bit cooler, so it's time for the thin layers now in Cyprus, especially in the evenings. It's really getting cooler now. I'm starting to don my slippers, so I would love to make some more of those, but that's just another thing to add to the list of many things. Right, the first thing I'm going to show you is my Crozy, and that is a play on words, Crozy Memories Blanket, and that is here. Now these squares resemble the knitter's Cozy Memories Blanket, so if you haven't seen already, I've designed a crochet version called the Crozy Memories Blanket square, and I'm currently, I've done 10 by 10 squares, and I'm currently sewing them together now, and I'll try and give you a close-up of how that join looks, and it's so neat. I'm really, really proud of how that's coming along. Obviously I've not joined this way, I've just joined the one way, and I've also got a couple of other rows to add. I'll try and, I hope you can see that. So it's not a 3D bumpy join, it's very much a flat join. Now I suppose I should really say that you can get hold of this pattern either on my website, it's not a website really, it's a blog, and that's at lorrainepughdesigns.blogspot.com. But you can also find it on Ravelry if you type in Crozy Memories Blanket, and it's a free pattern, and it's under my design name, which is just Lorraine Pugh Designs. And if you want to see any pictures of my works in progress and upcoming designs, I've got an Instagram account by the same name, Lorraine Pugh Designs, and a Facebook page, and blah 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 blah, but all of that will be in the show notes underneath this video. But I just thought I would show you how this is coming along. It's so lovely and squidgy. I just can't wait to get it finished, and not in a I want it finished now, I can't be bothered with it anymore way, but in a I'm just so excited to have it to snuggle under once it starts getting a bit cooler. I mean, I was even considering perhaps not finishing it all on purpose, so that at Christmas time I can maybe take it on the aeroplane when we visit family, maybe finish it off here and there, or maybe I'll weave in the ends on the aeroplane. We'll see, I don't know yet. But so the yarns I've used for this one, I suppose this is going to be a good way to show you. And also, just so you know, I am going to provide the layout of how I've put these squares together. This one I did it very randomly, but at the same time, although it's random, there I haven't allowed the same two yarns to be put right next to each other. Diagonally, yes, but not side by side. So let's start with this one. The colourway is called Thatcher, and it's a double knit. It's Sirdar Crofter DK, Fair Isle Effect, and that's really lovely to work with. I love how the colours change, I think they're gorgeous. This one is Seagrass by the same company, same Sirdar yarn. And then this one is Yarnfair Stripes. Now I've not got a ball of that left, but I do have the what do you call it, the ball band, and I really do want to show you it so you can see. There we go, Yarnfair Stripes. Now, if you haven't mentioned before, one of my passions now in recent, well, since the beginning of this year, has been to sort of showcase hand-dyed yarns, animal fibre, cotton fibre, anything natural really. But these are all sort of a mix of acrylic, acrylic, wool and cotton. These are all stash really that I've built up over the years, and also that have been for sale in my mum's shop, some of them. If you haven't watched already, my mum's had a shop out here for over 11 years now, I think, and she's finally retiring. People have said to me, why didn't you take the shop on, you know, it's such a shame. And I appreciate it's a big shame for everyone that wants to do craft over here, because there really isn't another shop like my mum's. But it is time for her to retire, and because of me having a little boy, and potentially I'd love more children in the future, once he starts school they might finish at around 1 o'clock, and I don't think I would be able to deal with the stress of running a business with a little boy. And if I haven't said already, my husband works in Africa, so he's not home the majority of the time. So I'm fine with all of that right now, but I think the addition of running the shop on my own would just be a bit too much. So anyway, I digress. So that is the Crozy Memories Blanket, and I'm not just saying this because it's my design, but I highly recommend it because it's done using what I call the tweed stitch, but some people call it linen stitch or even moss stitch, I think. But it's where you do a double crochet in UK terminology and a chain. So it creates that really nice fabric. It's sort of airy but floppy but still solid, so it's perfect It's the same stitch I've used in this current work in progress. Now, I haven't shown this to you before, and it was really quite weird. It was sort of a bit of a whim sort of project. I'd started a while back when I was first learning to knit a few months ago, not very long ago. I just wanted a simple pattern where I would just knit, purl, but I got this gorgeous yarn off a girl called Monika, and she owns what is now called Comeragh Yarns, Comeragh Yarns and Fibre, I think, but it used to be called Red Heart Knits. She's on Instagram, and she's got her shops on Etsy. But look at how beautifully that yarn comes out when you do the linen stitch especially. This is 100% merino. This is her colourway Rainbow in the Puddle, and it's really lovely. But you can see how the stitch really shows off variegated yarns or speckle yarns. It's just really lovely. But this project, I can't talk about the project until I've shown you the other yarn, because it's absolutely stunning. I've spoken about My Mum and Knits before, and I'm going to speak about her even more again in this video. But look at that. And you know whose fault this is. This is Ali's fault of the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. She has recently done the Hitchhiker's shawl. That's a knitted shawl using this yarn. And I've had this stashed, and I've still got a very good design for this. So I'm going to have to buy another ball. But when I saw her working with hers, I thought, I've got to work with mine. So I did a big long strip, and I knew what I was doing with it. Same goes for this one. I did the exact same strip with this, and this one, like I started to say earlier, was from a previous project. It was going to be a sort of a vest style top, or like a tank, but the knitting was taking so long, but the yarn was coming out gorgeous with the knitting. But I just thought, no, I'm much better at crochet, and I really wanted to wear the top, to be honest. So I frogged it all, and I made these two panels. And this was actually also inspired by Lisa, who I've mentioned before, of Lisa's Pine Notes on YouTube. She's got so many crochet videos, they're brilliant, and quite a few tutorials and things like that. But she's making a poncho, and from what I've looked at it, the poncho looks like it's worked in two rectangular panels and sewn at the front and then at the back, creating a sort of top. And that is what I'm trying to do with this. I put it on my dress form, which is perfect to fit me, which is such an amazing gift. My mum actually got it for me when she was making my wedding dress. So if I'm ever making a garment, which I don't make garments very often because I find them quite intimidating, I will just use that and pin things on. Like, I remember at one stage I was just making lots of motifs and pinning them on, and I thought eventually I'd just sew it all together. But then I needed the dress form for something else, and I ended up taking all the motifs off. But I will carry on with that one day. But so this is how I'm getting on with it at the moment. And I'm going to do the same join that I've done with the Crozy Memories squares. And it's sort of a zipper join, but not, it is a zipper join. But I'm going to digress again. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go off many tangents today. I really admired this, I think it's called The Last Dance on the Beach Crochet Along. And it's by the brand, or the brand of yarn that's hosting it is what a lot of people call sheepies yarn, and I think that's what I'm going to choose to call it. I believe it's meant to be pronounced like schkepius or something, but I struggle with that. And it's all in memory of Wink, who sadly, she was a crochet podcaster, but she sadly took her own life. And she had this design in progress. So many people came together and created this gorgeous blanket. And the Sheepies brand yarn came up with some colourways that you could buy these kits. I never took part in the crochet along, but I admired it so much, and I would love to make the blanket one day, that I liked the Facebook page. And I highly recommend, I highly recommend you to like it as well, because it's just, oh, all the people that are coming together and sharing their works in progress, it's just, they just look amazing. And one lady called Margaret, she mentioned about when she was trying to do the zipper join that was recommended, it would really tilt to one side. And I've had that same problem with my work before. So she came up with a very innovative, inventive way of creating the same zipper join, but for anyone whose work tilts. And I think it's to do with the way some of us hold our yarn or hold the hook, because everyone's tension's different and we all hold it, the yarn and the hook, in different ways. So she came up with a great. In fact, if you like the Facebook page, it's Sheepy's International Cal, C-A-L, I think. If you search for it, you will find it. And search for, I actually type in the word tilt, but I think if you type in Margaret's name, Margaret Evans, I think it is. I'll provide a link anyway, or not a link, but further details for you to find the page yourself and the particular post I'm talking about. Because she even made a really good infographic of where to put the hook exactly and from what angle to come in at. And oh, well, it worked out fantastically. And I wanted to show you this as a close-up to show you exactly what I mean. I think I left, right, so here's the original issue, but I was actually doing a double crochet join rather than a slip stitch join. I really like that because you get a ridge, and that's with the double crochet. But my issue, and to be honest, I knew this was an issue before I did this on this top, but I wanted it to be a feature. But if you look at that side, and then as I tilt it around, you can see the tops of the chain there. So they tilt, they're facing this angle. And now I've done Margaret's version on my Crozy Memories squares, I thought, no, I've got to undo that now and do it in the more flat slip stitch way. I did ask Margaret for her permission to share her name, because I'd also obviously like to provide a video tutorial for anyone else, and she said yes, that was fine. So I'm really glad she said yes, because otherwise I don't know if I would have felt comfortable with saying look how to do this when it wasn't me that even came up with the idea. And this is how Margaret's method works up. No tilts whatsoever, just a really nice flat neat join. So I'm really looking forward to carrying on with this, which will be a top. I'm thinking a hoodie, and when I put it on the dress form, there is a bit of a gap at the back of the neck, which is expected. So when it's on like that, if I want a hoodie, there'd be a bit of weakness there, and if I just went straight across. So I'm in the process of making a triangle out of some other yarn, but it feels exactly the same. So this triangle piece will actually go in there, and then once I've joined all of that, I'm going to work around the top, create a bit of a cowl, I think, as well, and then work back and forth to perhaps make the hood and then sew it at the top. But so it's a bit of a freestyle piece, I've got to admit. I don't think I'll ever write the pattern out as a pattern, because I wouldn't want to figure out other sizes, because it really just depends. I mean, this is so specific for me, but I have written down exactly what I've done, and I will share that. So if you're a similar build to me, then you could make the exact same one. But the thing that's gorgeous about this yarn, and let me just show you the tags of these dyers. So, although the information will be slightly different because I'm going to show you a different yarn by My Mum and It's. This is My Mum and It's, that's what her card looks like, and her name is Sunshine Stewart. She is on Instagram as well. So that is her Squid on the Beach yarn, which just looks beautiful. And then, so this one is by Monika. The reason I wasn't going to show this card is because it's got her old name on there, so that's what she used to be. But her name is Monika O'Brien, and you'll find her on Instagram as well. And when she sent the parcel, she gave some scented candles in with it. So sometimes I'm like, oh, there's that project with that Rainbow in the Puddle yarn, and I can sometimes smell my way there. And I currently keep it in this bag, and so it smells lovely. My sister got me this bag. It's really, really cute. I love it. So here's more of the Rainbow in the Puddle for me to work with. I might add a few stripes in with the hood. But the other yarns I'm using with it, I think they're actually, well, they are actually, I think it's discontinued now, but it was a James.C.Brett yarn, and it's 100% merino, and it's a baby yarn, and I've got some colours like this bright pink. Now I'm really not normally a pink person, but for some reason I just really wanted to just go wild with this top. Like, I want people to come up to me and say, where on earth did you buy that top, or what on earth are you wearing, and I just want a really wacky top, and I don't know why. I think that will go quite well with it all as well. Well, yeah, actually, if it doesn't go well with it, that's all part of the fun. That's the green that I made the triangle out of, kind of a muted green. There's a lovely beige in here as well, which I've used as part of the join on the other side. I do think this beige goes really nicely with this yarn. It's kind of got that, I don't know, definitely my colours. I love that fawn yarn. And then a cream as well, and even more Rainbow in the Puddle yarn. And the gorgeous candles, which I rewrapped. So I thought Rainbow in the Puddle, that's kind of, yeah, anyway. Enough of that one. So, yeah, and to be honest, although I'm not joining in a make-along at all, or a knit-along, I will mention Mina Phillip from the Knitting Expat podcast. She has started a Riot of Colour knit-along, and I think that's pretty much coming to an end now, but I did join in the chatter thread and just shared this, because I thought, if that's not a riot of colour, then I don't know what is. So I'm really enjoying making that. So that's that one. Can you see Mr. Chicken here? Lisa mentioned that she likes my little chicken companion, and quite ironically I said to her, yeah, the conversations Chicken and I have keep me sane. Now that in itself, if I'm having conversations with this chicken, who's actually ceramic, I think, but he looks like fabric, that just proves that I'm not completely mentally stable, I think. There we go. And he is sitting on, oh, check this out. I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. But I've got this wooden box full of wooden buttons. I won't be able to tip it up to show you, but since my sort of venture of wanting all things natural materials and as little acrylic and plastic and things like that as possible, because I also thought, if I'm ever making things and giving gifts to friends out of things that I've made and stuff, I want to be able to just write on there that it's 100% natural and 100% natural ingredients, if you like. Same goes if I've got some cotton fabric and I want to sew it. If you look for the general sew it all cottons, they're not actually cotton, they're mostly polyester, which is absolutely fine. But again, if I'm using cotton fabric, I prefer to use cotton yarn, cotton threads, because then at least you can say it's 100% cotton, you know, and it's going to behave in the same way. But yeah, loads of toggles in there as well. The toggles are mainly sitting on the top. They're the last ones I put in. But just some really gorgeous buttons. These are all from my mum's shop, and because we're having a closing down sale, I thought the wooden buttons are too lovely to just sell off too cheaply. I'm all for our lovely customers and friends getting a bargain, but those wooden buttons, they're all mine. So that's my box of wooden buttons. What to show you next? Well, I've got a design that I'm currently working on, and I actually came up with the design quite a while back now, and I've made it, and it was successful, and I loved it, but something just stopped me sharing it. I think it was so basic. And then a few days ago I was trying to design something and was just really trying hard, and it just wasn't working. The maths was sort of working out right, and the angles, because obviously if you know about crochet and things, then you'll know that the maths has to be right, and the angles, like for example increasing in a circular angle, and it's got to be right. And I'm not a big fan of when a design's been made so that you get most of the shaping from blocking it out. I like it that when the fibres are all relaxed in their natural form, that when you're making it, the maths and the angles should work out, that even if your gauge or tension's slightly off, that it should create the shape that the final design needs to be. Anyway, digressing again, that's the theme of today, I'm sorry, but so I was struggling a little bit with this design, and it's quite an intricate thing. It's something I've never designed before. And so then I sort of thought, well, it's obviously not meant to be, I'll leave it for another day. And then my little boy fell asleep in the car on the way home. And I'm not a fan of waking him up because I've just got the one child. If I had two, I'd probably have to wake him up and everything, but I can accommodate him quite happily. So I thought I'll just stay in the car with him and find something to do. And normally I'll have crochet on me, but because I decided to stop working on this design, I didn't bring any of the yarn with me. And then something just happened, or didn't happen if you like. I didn't really think about it. I just had my pen and my trusty leather notebook, which is awesome. And the design just sort of fell out on the page, and I was so amazed because it's quite an intricate thing, and I thought that looks like it would work. And when I tried it in the evening, it worked perfectly. And so I've combined the original very basic design with something quite intricate. I'm sorry I'm being quite obscure at the minute. But so I'm currently making it, and I'm going to make it in 2, maybe even 3 different colourways. So I don't want to show you the actual design. I have shared a photo on Instagram, so if you want to see or get a rough idea, although I'm purposely being very obscure with it, I will show you the yarns I'm using. And just make sure that I have them here for you. So there's this one, which I've shown before. I showed it in skein form. I showed this, I can't remember which episode it was now, but it was in the earlier days. It could have even been episode 2 or 3. But it's a My Mama Knits yarn, and this one's Kelpie. So it's got some earthy greens, some speckles of red over the greens, and then dashes of black, and right in between the black bits, or very dark grey bits, you've got that flash of yellow. I just love the... I apologise, Sunshine, if you don't like my wording, but for me it's sort of a grungy yarn, but in a really good way. And I thought it just went perfectly with this yarn. So this one's called Birken Hair. I've got the label for it, so I'm going to read here. It's 100% superwash merino sock wool. It's too soft for socks. Sorry, no offence to sock makers, but it is really soft. So I think you could use it for all sorts of things. But this one is called Kelpie, and so you've got mostly greens in here with quite a bluish green there, and then flashes of dark charcoal, almost black there, and then the vibrant red bits. And those I can't remember if this is actually inspired from something Sunshine had written in the description of this yarn, but when I see the black with that flash of red, it does remind me of, like, I can't even think of the film, or it might be a children's film. What is it? Where there's a black horse and it's got the red eyes running through that murky water, but that's just what that reminds me of. So those two, they just work so well together. And I'm actually using this yarn, which is by Dye for Wool. Dye for Wool is a fantastic yarn. It's on Etsy. It's a yarn shop on Etsy. When you're looking for specific colours, I love all of these variegated yarns, but some projects I've got, I can just see them in, like, say, 3 solid colours, and they're very specific. When I get a colour idea, it's very specific in my mind, and Dye for Wool nearly always has the right colours, so I can highly recommend that yarn shop as well. But this is their merino silk fingering weight yarn. So I'm using these together. So this is a kind of, on purpose, meant to be a bit of like a grungy sort of pattern. And what this is inspired by is the fact that I don't know about you guys, but with me, when people learn that I crochet, they're quite surprised sometimes. They're like, oh, I never expected that. Like, for example, I love all different things in the world, but I love having a big pot of tea, just chilling out, but at the same time I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers and rocking out to some of their tunes. And so when I tell people that I like to crochet as well, they can be a bit surprised. So for me, I can imagine wearing what this will be with my Red Hot Chili Peppers t-shirt, and I'll have some beads on it as well, what this will be. So It will basically be a sort of a shawl, but it might be a sort of scarfy shawl. The actual pattern will have different options within it, so it's very adaptable. So yeah, some little clues there for you, but yeah, and so I'm thinking of calling the pattern the Unexpected, because also, although they're quite grungy looking yarns, when you do it in a different yarn, that my pattern, you can get a totally different look. And so the other yarns I'm going to do it in are these, and so it will actually look really elegant when done in this. Look at that beautiful yarn. I shared a picture of this one in the skein on Instagram. This is by Hand Dyed by Kate, and it's her Colour Theory colourway, and it's on her yak sock base. And it's just stunning. And whether or not you know, I'm not sure, but with yak, because it's got a grey, it starts off grey when it's undyed. Any colour that you put on it is toned with grey, which is perfect for me because, like I've mentioned before, if you ever do the season analysis to see what colours suit you best, I tend to come out on along the autumn spectrum and the toned autumn. So I'm not particularly pale and light. I'm not particularly dark either. There's not massively high contrast with my hair, skin and eyes, so I'm sort of middle of the road. So I think they call that toned autumn. So that's perfect for me as well. But I'm actually going to pair it with this. Oh, that's really showing up really well. It's even like making the rest of the image like blow out. But that is just stunning. And this yarn is Gold Stellina sock base by Lanitium Ex Machina. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'll show you Kate's first. So this is her Colour Theory. Now bear in mind that her logo as well has changed. So if you look her up, it won't be this logo. It'll actually be like a green skein. Hand Dyed by Kate. Colour Theory, yak sock, 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon, 400 meters to 100 grams. And that yarn is just stunning. So I'm really looking forward to making it in that, because it's amazing how much, although you can design a pattern, the yarns really do make it, I think. So I think it's a real hand-in-hand thing. And I love it, the fact that these yarn dyers share some of my pictures and I can share some of theirs, and no one's competing. You know, no one's trying to palm something off as their own. We're all working together in this, and I absolutely love that. So yes, this is the Glitter Sock by Lanitium Ex Machina. This colourway is called Tanzanite. And I have actually got a couple of other balls in this space in other colours for future projects, and I know what they will be as well. But when I've finished other designs, like I said, too many projects that I want to make in so little time. But we make time for these things, don't we? So that's that. So I'm really looking forward to working some more on this. Initially, when I did this one, I have had to change a couple of things with it. Like the image I put on Instagram, I've made a slight change to it. You know, when you're working on something and it's just not quite, it's like 95% what you want, but there's that little thing of doubt, and so I ripped it back and redid it, and it's just spot on, and I'm just so excited and very proud. I must admit, I'm really, really chuffed with how it's coming out. So this one, it will probably be a paid for pattern, but anyway, all of that, we can leave that till later because it's irrelevant at the moment until it's finished, and it's not fair for me to keep talking about something that I'm not going to show you properly. While this is here, I wasn't going to show you this. This, I think last time I said about the Crozy Memories square, I wanted to make it bigger to cover the little side table I have on my balcony, to put my cup of tea on when I'm sitting on my rocking chair, and it's worked out really well. I just made an extra sized Crozy Memories square, and because this is slightly rectangular as opposed to square, I did actually, although it looks quite square on there, I did actually add a few rows on one side. I just worked back and forth, and then I decreased in the corners a couple of times, and then I did a treble row where I did 2 trebles and a chain, so that enabled me to weave in some of this cotton tape and pull it like a drawstring just to keep it a bit more secure on the chair. I keep calling it a chair. It's not a chair at all. I think if you sat in it, you might break it. But this lovely little side table, we'll call it that, side table, was from a customer turned friend, shall we say, called Anne. And Anne has also gifted me a gorgeous shawl, which I'm not going to show you just yet because it's currently being blocked out. So I can't wait to show you that. It's honestly, it's absolutely stunning. I've never been gifted anything quite as intricate as that. So I was very, very grateful, and I couldn't believe, well, exactly lost for words. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have such generous people in my life. So that's that. I'm just trying to think now if there was anything else I was going to show you. Oh, just one other thing I will mention. Another knit along that's drawing to an end soon is Jacqueline Salem of the Brooklyn Knit Folks doing an element along, and it's all based on the different elements. So I'm not going to go too much into it because I have mentioned it, I think, quite a few times, and I don't want to bore people, especially as I've not worked on this at all. But I still want to show you because it's not something I'm putting away and forgetting about. So I don't want any of you to think that I'm just have forgotten about it. But let's take the dog hair off. I'm making the Authenticity shawl, and I'm using a fingering weight yarn, although the pattern says to do it in an Aran weight. And obviously, being new to knitting, I'm just taking my time with it, and I've used stitch markers. I just get this out of the bag sometimes just to look at it because I just think it's so stunning. So the lace patterns are just working out nicely, and I pick this up when I know that I can really concentrate on it. Although with the stitch markers, I've put them every lace repeat I've put a stitch marker in, and these gorgeous stitch markers are from Crafty Cat's Knitty Bits. Crafty Cat Knitty Bits, and she's on Etsy. Her name's Debs. She's on Etsy and Instagram as well, if you want to check her out. And these are check glass beads. They are really, really lovely. And the yarn I'm using is by Wool Elf, who I've mentioned many times before, in her Curry and Saffron colourway. And there's a lot on here. I ordered a 250 grams, so 1,000 metre cake of yarn, because I want it to be a nice big shawl to wrap around me. So this is a mega long-term project. Maybe in a decade or so I'll have it finished, and then I can wrap up nicely in it, so that will be lovely. And the pattern, to show you, Sylvia McFadden, that's her name. She is soft sweater knits. She's very talented. Some of the other things she's come up with, one of them is called Waiting for Rain, and I think it involves this same lace pattern but using short rows. Yeah, she's definitely one of those designers that I'm going to be following and keeping up with. So that's that one. What else really? I think I'm just going to talk about a couple of random things that I thought of that just made me smile, and they're not completely or at all really yarn related. But the other day I was working in my mum's shop, and a song came on the radio, and I recall about 10 years ago I used to hear this song on such a regular basis, and it's the tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. When I first heard it, it was when I was working in a bar, behind the bar, and a bloke used to come in at the weekends and do karaoke. And but the thing is, he wouldn't just come once a week. I think he came twice a week, and he would sing the same songs every time. And so this song I would hear very regularly, and some nights he would even sing it twice. So I got quite fed up with that song. When I'd hear it, I'd make my excuses and like nip to the loo when I could, and yeah, I just got a little bit tired of it. So every time I would hear this song, and even afterwards when I stopped working in that bar and on the radio, because also I would like to mention that the people that owned the bar, they could have treated their staff a little bit better, so I didn't have the best association with that song, but they were good times nonetheless. So when I would hear that song, it'd really make me cringe. And then anyway, so fast forward 5 or 6 years, yeah, about 5, no, what am I talking about? It was 10, sorry, can't remember what I just said, but it was about 10 years ago. So I think I said 5 years, but no, I'm talking about 10 years ago. Anyway, so fast forward 10 years, so to the other day, and the song came on the radio, and sort of I realised that I had this big grin on my face, and I was singing along to it, and I was really enjoying it. And I thought, what's happened here? And I realised that because so much time had passed, and although I'd still hear the song occasionally, it's now, I think, because of the 10-year mark, I suppose, has become more of a nostalgic song for me. It's not, like at the time, you think something's bad, but really, it's not that serious, is it? It's just an annoying song, or was at the time. But now I look back at it and I think, oh, those were good days, you know, because I was a teenager at the time. And yeah, so I just thought that was really funny. And I've since realised that with quite a few songs now, songs that I would think might have made me cringe a little bit when I was younger, when perhaps I wasn't a fan of it, being a bit of a music snob. I do prefer like live people that can play the instruments. If you're going to call yourself a band, I do think you should be able to play instruments and have at least someone that can hit the notes when they're singing. But yeah, I just thought that was quite funny that I don't know if it's a time thing that turns something into more a good memory or not, but I just thought that was quite funny. I think that's about it from me now. Yeah, so I hope you'll have a lovely couple of weeks till I see you next. I'm really looking forward to cracking on now with these projects that I'm doing and sharing with you all more of my works. And I love seeing all of yours as well on Instagram. I still feel I'm quite new to Instagram. I've only been on it a few months, but in that short space of time, just the people that I've met on there, it really has become sort of an additional way of life for me. And I really look forward to chatting with you all. Whereas if I'm in a supermarket and I'm just going from A to B, I've got quite a bad habit. If I see someone that I recognise or know from another, I tend to keep my head down and just carry on. But it's funny, if I know that I'm going to have a conversation with someone about yarn or crochet, I probably nag more. I'm like, hey, look, here I am. Let's talk. So it's funny, isn't it? When I'm passionate about something, I really look forward to it. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Anything you'd like to know more of, just contact me either on Ravelry. I'm on Ravelry as Lorraine Pugh. But all of these details will be in the box below and on my little blog and in the Ravelry group. So yes, that's about it. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely time. I'll probably put a snippet at the end of a little on location things to do with Cyprus, as I like to do, because I like to show you all the place that I live in, because I appreciate some of you haven't been to Cyprus before. So to give you an idea of that. So enjoy the clip and take care. See you soon. Bye.